أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأتباعه وسلم. So just a very quick recap of what we have done for the first 2 weeks. This is the third discussion. So first week we started with Bismillah, in the name of God, and we were trying to, actually there was a very bold claim at the very beginning. It was saying that everything in the existence says Bismillah. But he was saying that they speak with a tongue of disposition, because we were questioning, do we ever hear a tree saying Bismillah, or do we ever hear a bird speaking Bismillah? But eventually he said that the author in here was describing in the name of God means acting in somebody's name. And we were giving the example of somebody entering into this room, speaking a few words, and everybody leaving the room. We said that this man wouldn't be acting on his own name, because we are here 15 people, and a single person by his force cannot drive away this many people out. Most likely it would be a person, maybe a responsible person, like I don't know, someone from fire department, or somebody from the university, somebody who is acting on behalf of somebody else will come and drive us away. And we were asking the question of, how about the universe? Like a tree, for example. A tree, an apple tree, is in need of, let's say, seasons, the sun to have the rise up, water to be brought from the ocean. All these things are needed. And as if everything is working within the command of a tree. So as if tree is giving the command of, oh, sun rise, or rain come. And then these things are taking place. The question was is the tree capable of having power over all these things? Or the tree is acting on behalf of somebody else? So in this, we were, this was both a beginning and also a summary, because our very initial conclusion in brief was everything in this existence is acting on behalf of somebody else, because they are incapable of doing this or bringing them into existence. Yet, things come into existence. So in last week, we were then talking about what does belief in the unseen mean? Because Qur'an is talking about belief in the unseen at the very beginning of Scripture. When we just start listening to Scripture, we see that it talks about belief in the unseen. And we first asked the question, is it like somebody coming and telling me that, let's say, there is an army outside, like 10,000 people are waiting in front of this building. You believe or disbelieve? Is this what it means, belief in the unseen? Does it mean that you take this man's word for granted, and since this man is saying so, it must be so? Is this sort of a accepting somebody's claim? Is this what belief means? Or is it something else? So last week we were discussing about that. We were even giving the example of, let's say, a paper like this. And when we look at this paper, let's assume if this was a love poem or a letter from somebody who I love most, and this person has died me. Then I take this paper, I look at it for a few minutes, then I start crying. Another person takes the letter. Why are you crying by looking at this white paper with some ink on it? Why do you cry? What's the point? Then I say, it's not just paper and ink. It is telling me information about my deceased friend. So it has a lot of things in it. It's not simply paper and ink. The guy would say, no, it is simply ink and paper. What are you talking about? So me seeing it and saying that, at least don't you see that there is some sort of an order, like things are written one after the other, put in lines. Maybe there's something beyond ink and paper over this. Then I start investigating and I see that actually it's a text, it conveys some message. Then I arrive to meaning, which doesn't exist over the paper. Meaning is not over the paper. But this paper, ink and paper, becomes, if you like, a window for me, like a passage for me to pass to the truth behind it. So belief in this sense is, I come to this world. Now I'm trying to summarize 1.5 hours discussion into a few minutes. But belief should be something like, I come to this existence. I experience, let's say, a fruit. And then I say, this fruit cannot be the product of tree. Because tree doesn't know who I am. Tree doesn't love me. Yet, this gift of fruit is as if hand-carved for me. And you will remember we were giving the example of a FedEx carrier. A FedEx carrier comes and gives you an iPhone on your birthday. You were in need of this gift, let's say. But who is delivering the gift? FedEx carrier. Is FedEx carrier capable of giving you this gift? $1,000 gift to a stranger? He doesn't know you. He doesn't know that today is your birthday. He doesn't love you to give you $1,000 gift. And he himself is not rich enough anyways to give $1,000 gifts to random people. So just looking at this case, you would easily say that somebody else must have sent this to me. Although I received it from FedEx carrier, I am convinced that somebody else sent it. It's not FedEx carrier's job to gift me something. When I look at an apple tree, I see that the texture of apple is so beautifully designed, which is addressing my eyes. Its taste is so beautiful, addressing my tongue. Smell is beautiful. It's the feeling that when I touch it, beautiful. It feeds my stomach, my body. So who knows me so well, who loves me so well, must have sent this. An apple tree doesn't know me. Apple tree doesn't love me. So in this case, belief means, now I say there must exist someone who sent this to me, other than apple tree. So this is why belief means this necessary conclusion. And this is why we were saying Allah should come at the very end as a conclusion. Because Allah is ghaib, but it has to be a conclusion. Put in another word, the sentence should end with Allah, not start. And how it is in Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. So Allah is conclusion. It's not that Allah is the one who creates everything. Not like that. It is, there is no creator at all other than Him. Meaning that apple tree is not the creator. Cloud is not the creator. Day and night is not the creator. None of them are creators. So it's all negation. La ilaha phase, it's the first negation phase is there. You say, this cannot be God, this cannot be God, this cannot be God. And then you say that, but there has to be a God. There has to exist someone who does all these. So this is what Iman is. This necessary conclusion which comes at the end is يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Belief in the unseen is this. And we were talking about while we said that, we were referring to beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. And Surah Al-Baqarah was starting with Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. So this is the book. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There's no doubt about it, about which there is no doubt. Hudan, as a guidance, لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, for the God conscious. So Which book? Is it talking about Quran itself, like this cover-to-cover 600-page book? Or what book? In a sense, yes, it's talking about Quran. But if we consider the first revelation, it was not written over a paper anyways. And also, when the first revelation came, it said to the messenger in the first place, and also to us, it started saying, read, iqra. But the messenger himself has never read a single letter throughout his life. He was illiterate. So if we take the verse literally, he never obeyed this command at all throughout his life. So was he coming against the command, or we can at least understand something else as well from read? Because apparently the way messenger understood read was not literally reading letters, because he never did that. He never went to school to learn how to read Arabic text, for example. Yet, he was the teacher of this message. I mean, think about a calculus teacher who doesn't know calculus. He is the first person who supposedly is going to teach us how to read, but he himself never read a single Arabic letter. So then what are we supposed to read then? Because Surah Al-Baqarah starts with Alif Lam Mim Dhalika Kitab la Rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin, and the next verse says Alladhina yu'minuna bil ghayb. So then muttaqin is being defined as those who believe in the unseen. So properly reading the book is very much related to belief in the unseen. So now today's discussion is, what is book and how do I read it? And while we are going to study this, we will try to come up with a description for book, at the same time a description for Quran. Because one meaning of book is Quran, but what else is out there? So the text that we are going to read today is from the words, Said Nursi's commentary, and this is the 12th word. Last week it was second word. We are jumping a little bit forward. And last week somebody from here read. So this week, anybody from here would like to read? Would you like to read? Yes. Okay. So let's read it from beginning to end once. Then we will go back and go step by step.
First principle. Look through the telescope of the following story, which is in the form of a comparison, and see the differences between Quranic wisdom and that of philosophy and science.
And before that, can you also read the verse at the very beginning?
Sorry. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, and he who has been given wisdom has been given great good. 2:16. First principle. Look through the telescope of the following story, which is in the form of a comparison, and see the differences between Quranic wisdom and that of philosophy and science. One time, a renowned ruler who was both religious and a fine craftsman wanted to write the all-wise Qur'an in a script worthy of the sacredness in its meaning and the miraculousness in its words, so that its marvel displaying stature would be arrayed in wondrous apparel. The artist king therefore wrote the Qur'an in a truly wonderful fashion. He used all his precious jewels in his writing. In order to indicate the great variety of its truth, he wrote some of its embodied letters in diamonds and emeralds, and some in rubies and agate, and other sorts in brilliants and coral, while others he inscribed with silver and gold. He adorned and decorated it in such a way that everyone, those who knew how to read and those who did not, were full of admiration and astonishment when they beheld it, especially in the view of the people of truth, since the outer beauty was an indication of the brilliant beauty and striking adornment in its meaning. It became a truly precious antique. Then the ruler showed the artistically wrought and bejeweled Quran to a European philosopher and to a Muslim scholar. In order to test them and for reward, he commanded them, each of you write a work about the wisdom and purposes of this. First the philosopher, then the scholar composed a book about it. However, the philosopher's book discussed only the decorations of the letters and their relationships and conditions, and the properties of the jewels, and described them. It did not touch on their meaning at all, for the European had no knowledge of the Arabic script. He did not even know that the embellished Qur'an was a book, a written piece expressing a meaning. He rather looked on it as an ornamented antique. He did not know any Arabic, but he was a very good engineer, so he described things very aptly, and he was a skillful chemist and an ingenious jeweler. So this man wrote his work according to these crafts. As for the Muslim scholar, when he looked at the Quran, he understood that it was the perspicuous book, the all-wise Quran. This truth-loving person neither attached importance to the external adornments, nor busied himself with the ornamented letters. He became preoccupied with something that was 1,000,000 times higher, more elevated, more subtle, more noble, more beneficial, and more comprehensive than the matters with which the other man had busied himself. For discussing the sacred truths and lights of the mysteries beneath the veil of decorations, he wrote a truly fine commentary. Then the two of them took their works and presented them to the illustrious ruler. The ruler first took the philosopher's work. He looked hard at it and saw that the self-centered and nature-worshipping man had worked very hard, but had written nothing of true wisdom. He had understood nothing of its meaning. Indeed, he had confused it and been disrespectful towards it, and ill-mannered even. For supposing that source of truth, the Quran, to be meaningless decoration, he had insulted it as being valueless in regard to meaning. So the wise ruler hit him over the head with his work and expelled him from his presence. Then he looked at the work of the other, the truth-loving, scrupulous scholar, and saw that it was an extremely fine and beneficial commentary, a most wise composition full of guidance. Congratulations, may God bless you, he said. Thus, wisdom is this, and they call those who possess it knowledgeable and wise. And for the other man, he was a craftsman who had exceeded his mark. Then in reward for the scholar's work, he commanded that in return for each letter, 10 gold pieces should be given him amidst an inexhaustible treasury. If you have understood the comparison, now look and see the reality. The ornamented Quran is this artistically fashioned universe, and the ruler is the pre-eternal, all-wise one. As for the two men, one, the European, represents philosophy and its philosophers, and the other, the Quran and its students. Yes, the all-wise Quran is a most elevated expounder, a most eloquent translator of mighty Quran of the universe. Yes, it is a criterion which instructs man and the jinn concerning the signs of creation inscribed by the pen of power on the pages of the universe and on the leaves of time. It regards beings, each of which is a meaningful letter, as bearing the meaning of another. That is, it looks at them on account of their maker. It says, how beautifully have they been made, how exquisitely they point to their maker's beauty, thus showing the universe's true beauty. But the philosophy they call natural philosophy or science has plunged into the decorations of letters of beings and into their relationships, and has become bewildered, has confused the way of reality. While the letters of this mighty book should be looked at as bearing the meaning of another, that is, on the account of God, they have not done this. They have looked at beings as signifying themselves. That is, they have looked at beings on account of beings, and have discussed them in that way. Instead of saying how beautifully they have been made, they say how beautiful they are, and they have made them ugly. In doing this, they have insulted the universe and made it complain about them. Indeed, philosophy without religion is a sophistry divorced from reality and an insult to the universe.
So, a nice story. But let's go through it step by step. A lot of jewels in the story, I guess, literally and meaning-wise. So, I guess the story part, then there's this king. And king is an artist. So he writes Quran with nice, beautiful letters, with all jewels and everything. But he has a purpose in here. He says that there is a meaning in this book, and while writing the text, so he uses certain, say, jewels for expressing certain words. So the letters that he uses, the jewels that he uses for a certain word, has a connection with the meaning that it expresses. So it's like this sort of an interesting style he follows. Then he asks for two people to write a commentary about this book. Those two people, one of them is a European philosopher, as author puts it, and the other one is a Muslim scholar. So how do they evaluate the book? Let's now start discussion to be a little bit more interactive from here. How does the Muslim scholar take the book? How does he approach the book? He or she? What do you guys think? Any idea?
The Muslim scholar?
Yeah.
So he did not attach any importance to the decorations, but like he understood the meaning of the writing.
And then how about the other guy, like the philosopher?
Focus on the exteriors.
Exteriors.
Yeah. And not on the meaning because you can understand it.
So he didn't treat it as a book.
Yeah.
He didn't even treat it as a text. He just said that they're very nice shapes and relative to each other. For example, if it was this text, I guess the first guy would take it and will say that, okay, there is this shape like this, O, and he will count how many O's are there in this page. He would say there are 36 O's in the first side and 22 in the second side. Then talk about letter B, letter C, how many times O, double O's came one after the other. A good statistics of the letters over the paper. And he would write a nice statistical analysis of this. Maybe make bar charts, pie charts, and everything that you can imagine about the combination of letters in here. But what is being done? So this person is not considering this as a text. He's just taking it as just shapes, let's say. Shapes and the relative positions of shapes. How many times O comes after L. So relative position of letters with respect to each other, that much. The other person takes the text and sees that, oh, this is a text which carries a meaning. So when he looks at the word L-O-O-K, he says, oh, this is the word look. It means something. So he doesn't really busy himself with the positioning of letters. But he directly jumps into the meaning, trying to understand what was meant with these words. So the second person is, in the second person's perspective, the letters refer to something else. In the first person's case, a letter is a letter. It speaks about itself only. When you look at letter L, is there anything beyond L? Just the letter is saying that I am letter L. Very much personal thing. But if it is a sentence, it gives you a message about somebody else, something else. You don't look at the letter or the word anymore. It becomes a message bearer to you, which brings you a message from somewhere else or somebody else. This distinction is important. We will revisit this part, but just keep that in mind for now. Okay. So at the end, the two now gives the book to the king. The king is evaluating them. So when he takes the philosopher's book, he sees that this guy really worked so hard. He made a very beautiful, if you would like to call it beautiful, statistical analysis of this book, this text. It's not that this guy is lazy. He really made a very nice statistical analysis. But still, he insulted this by saying it's meaningless. Do you agree that it's an insult? Although the guy worked hard, but it was a pointless work. What do you think? Do you think, was it worthy or pointless to count the letters in here? I mean, if somebody asks you to make a commentary about this, and let's say as an assignment you give this to your student, and student brings you a statistical analysis of the letters in here, what would you do? Would you give 100 to the student? How does it work? Do you guys take that type of hundreds in your classes? It would be nice, huh? Nick,
Refer them to caps.
that's it?
So I might refer them to caps.
CAPS?
Yeah.
So CAPS is the name of an exam?
No, it's the counseling and
Oh, okay.
psychological services.
Oh, I see. Okay.
To me, it would make sense for like the professor to be insulted. But, like, do you really think that's what I was asking you to do?
Haven't you listened to the class at all? This is why are you paying this many? Let's say if it was a pen, let's say at least you would say, how did you come here? Like, oh, did you cheat in the exams, or how did you end up coming to this school in the first place? Are you making fun of me? Do I look like assume that it's a calculus assignment, and professor gave you a test for calculus, and you are returning as if it was a social science assignment. You give you turn in the assignment as, since the original test was all about Greek letters, symbols, then you come up with a history of Greek letters as a response to this calculus assignment. What would the professor say? He will give you a nice, I don't know, O, and saying that now try to understand what this O means. Right? Because it's like an insult for the questions. You didn't understand anything what this class was all about. So for the second man, he really understood what was going on in the class. So he was treated well. Okay. We will revisit parts of the text back and forth at some point. But let's jump to the last paragraph. The author is now talking about the truth of the story. So he is trying to, by making this analogy, again, his purpose is not to entertain us, right? He's trying to give us a message. So he says the ornamented Qur'an is this artistically fashioned universe. Ornamented Qur'an in the story is the universe. So as if the book to the right is the universe. And the ruler is the pre-eternal, all-wise one. As for the two men, one, the European one, represents philosophy and its philosophers, and the other, Qur'an and its students. This part, let's stop here. Think about it. The first man, he says, was philosophy, representing philosophy, not actually a man, but if you like, mentality. The first man in the story was representing European philosophy, let's say Greek philosophy. And the second one, the Muslim scholar in the story, he says, is Qur'an. What does this imply to you? What do you think about that? Qur'an, let's start either from whichever you would like to pick. Any comments about the philosophy or Qur'an? What do you think? Any ideas? Let me be more specific. So, do you think philosophy is reading or treating the universe like just studying the counting number of letters? Do you see such a parallelism? How?
So it doesn't, the philosophers care more about the outward, I think.
Outward?
Yeah, just like the way something looks, and not really, they don't see the connection between the outward and what it means. Whereas the Muslim focuses on what something means, they're not too concerned about.
So let me be a little bit more specific what author means by European philosopher here. So materialistic philosophy, let's say, including biology classes that you take, for instance.
Yeah.
So this perspective of materialistly looking at the world. So do you think in your biology class, for instance, or a chemistry class, physics class, how do you look at this universe?
Billiard ball atomism.
Atomism?
They talk about billiard ball atomism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just random.
Random. So what would be, I mean, now we are trying to find the parallelism between the story. So in the story, it was saying that the first guy just looked at the relation between letters. So when it comes to your chemistry class or biology class, how do you look at existence or universe? Physically, meaning?
How many O's connected to on the page?
It's just interactions between like physical things. They're all the same.
It's all empirical.
Yeah, all in, if you like, horizontal level. We are trying to see how things interact with each other. Sun rises. With the heat of sun, water evaporates. Once the water evaporates and comes to some cloud, some cold air, it becomes rain, comes down. So it's all mutual relations between the things in this existence. It's this sort of an analysis. And any of the sciences that we study today is evaluating this existence as such, isn't it? So if you take the existence as a like as a surface, it's trying to find a relation between points in this existence. Cloud versus tree, tree versus fruit, fruit versus animal. So everything in this horizontal level, relation between everything. So if we go back to this example of the paper, it is trying to see how L is related to O is related to P in this horizontal level, but the other scholar would, if you like, go in vertical direction. We'll try to pass beyond letter, beyond paper. I'm using horizontal and vertical metaphorically here. So it's saying that the existence is not two-dimensional only. It's not like only relative positions of things. There is something beyond this paper, the meaning. So he's going into the paper. And in the existence, yeah, we can study, as we all do in university, how things are relative to each other. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't convey any message to us. We just say, in this universe, the most frequently encountered particle is, I'm just throwing out, carbon. Another statistics from existence. Why? What does it mean? No question, no answer. This is not how this sort of philosophy investigates universe. And again, the first scholar was not a lazy man. He was a very hardworking person. Yet, he insulted the book. So this perspective, we might be very hardworking, but by this, looking at the existence as such, we are really denying the meaning of existence. If I just look at the existence and say that, yeah, this happens because of this happens because of this, rain happens because of clouds, clouds happens because of evaporation. But what all those mean? No idea. Even as if I am saying they are meaningless. There's no such thing as meaning. So this is an insult. So in this existence, we, this society, or the civilization, modern day civilization or colleges, we might be insulting the existence or the author of existence. Because the author of this existence, now the existence itself became a book. So an apple became like a paragraph. So read this paragraph, and what does it tell you? Or do I simply take it as it's delicious? I ate, throw away the remaining part, nothing else. What did you take out of the apple? A few seconds of joy. Joy disappears, apple disappears, I disappear, nothing is left. So this part was important. I'm reading it again. The ornamented Qur'an is this artistically fashioned universe, and the ruler is the pre-eternal, all-wise one. As for the two men, one, the European, represents Moscow and its philosophers, and the other, Qur'an and its students. Now, this sentence is very nice. Yes, the all-wise Qur'an is a most elevated expounder, a most eloquent translator of the mighty Qur'an of the universe. I really like this sentence. What is Qur'an for you? And is this sentence updating your understanding of Qur'an? Qur'an is speech of God, right? But now he is saying that no. Qur'an is, if you like, a commentary or the explainer of the book of existence. So this existence is a book. But what does this book say? Qur'an is the explainer of the existence. Qur'an itself, as if now Qur'an is speaking and teaching you about what this book of existence tells you. So the meaning of Qur'an is now changing. Because according to my definition, I'm going to benefit from it. So for example, if you see somebody sitting next to you in subway, that person initially for you is just a man, right? Somebody. But if you know that this person is a Nobel laureate, what would change for you? Well, this guy knows a lot. I mean, he was worthy of getting this Nobel Prize. So if, let's say, you have some questions about chemistry and this guy ended up being the receiving Nobel Prize for chemistry, you can ask any question to this man and get your satisfactory answers. So the definition of man really changed your expectation from man. Otherwise, he was just somebody. Maybe you will try to be busy with your stuff in order so that he is not going to ask you for money or anything. Just busy yourself. But now everything changes. So what is Qur'an for me? And if it is, as author claims, Qur'an is a most elevated expounder, a most eloquent translator of the mighty Qur'an of the universe. First of all, let's focus on the last part of the sentence. He's saying that universe is a mighty Qur'an. It's also an interesting way to look at universe. So if I ask you the question, what is universe? What is it for you? A house that we live in? It's our developed place. Nighttime, there are nice stars. Daytime, there's this sun. Today was a beautiful weather. He's saying that no, universe is a mighty Qur'an. So this is an important point for the very beginning of our discussion, right? When the messenger has first received the revelation, Iqra, Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. So read in the name of your Lord who created. So then the creation itself becomes Qur'an. And the way author is putting it forth as if now he's saying that Qur'an, the book Qur'an, is the translator of mighty Qur'an. What does this remind you? As if there is a direct parallelism between the two books, because he is using the same name for both. One is Qur'an, and for the other he says the existence, the universe is a mighty Qur'an. Anything that you find in this mighty Qur'an, you will find an explanation for it in the book Qur'an. Anything you see in the book Qur'an, you will find something in the mighty Qur'an which the book points to. What does this mean? How do you read Qur'an now? Since now you know that there is a one-to-one mapping between the book Qur'an and the universe, the existence. How would you like to read Qur'an now? What would be a proper way of reading Qur'an?
That's a reflection.
A lot of reflection, now because there is a way for you to verify it, right? Because Qur'an, because as we were saying last week, Qur'an is a guidance. What was guidance? Anybody who wants to remind us? What would make a thing guide? The example we gave last week was signpost for Philadelphia, right? So if you are in New York, coming to Philly, signpost saying Philadelphia would say that, okay, this is the direction that I should follow. It is pointing to Philadelphia. You go and you arrive to Philadelphia and you say, yeah, the signposts were correct. You will follow a signpost only if you are searching for somewhere. If you would like to just stay under the signpost, yes, stay under the signpost. It's not going to give you anything. It's not going to benefit you. I mean, you can hang the signpost, just hug it, give it very elevated value, carry it over your head. Is signpost going to help you at all? So when can you benefit from a signpost? If you are planning to come to Philly, the signpost will help you. You will benefit from it. How do you benefit from Qur'an? Is it by putting it over my head or paying a lot of money to buy the most beautifully written Qur'an, showing my respect for it? Is this how I respect Qur'an? Or it's a guidance. It tells me that this is what it is. It tells me that read in the name of your Lord. This is a guidance. It's a direction saying that you should be reading in the name of your Lord. Oh, do I have a Lord? What does that mean? And the following part of the verse says, who created? Oh, am I created? I should ask this question, right? The verse is claiming as if I am created, and I should be reading in the name of someone who created. And that means I do not exist by myself. I didn't create myself. Somebody is looking after me. This is what the book is claiming, right? If you read into the sentence, this is what it implies. So benefiting from this as guidance would mean, okay, then let me try to read as such. Then I will benefit from Quran. Then it will become a guidance for me. This is how I would be really showing my respect to the Quran. Otherwise, if I am writing a statistics of Quran, giving it to the author of the Quran and saying that, look, I really counted all the letters in Quran. I really paid a lot of money to buy the best book. Would it be really respecting Quran, or would it be like the author would say, did you really think that Quran is this book only? Is it just a cover-to-cover paper and ink? Quran becomes Quran if I read it. Read meaning in the now deeper sense of the word read that we have been discussing so far. Likewise, if I read the existence, then I would be respecting the existence. So, for instance, let's say that Western civilization is more respectful in the sense of being more humanitarian or more environment friendly, right? more green places. So, and apparently this is respecting the life or respecting the living beings, right? Good, we should be respecting living beings. But if I, for example, respect an animal's life by trying to pay super attention not to disturb the animal, which are all those good qualities, yet I say that, oh, this animal is happening because of chance. Did I really respect the animal? How would I respect the animal? Was it simply treating it well on the surface? So, right? So let's keep reading. I should find right questions so that I will get some answers. I guess I'm asking wrong questions. I will appreciate if you can chime in any questions, any comments, maybe. Please help me with that. Okay. So the author said, always Qur'an is the most elevated expounder and most eloquent translator of the mighty Qur'an of the universe. Yes, it is the criterion which instructs men and the jinn concerning the signs of creation inscribed by the pen of power on the pages of the universe and on the leaves of time. So what is pen of power? He is mentioning pen of power. Does it ring any bells? It says signs of creation written with the pen of power. What do you think? Have you heard the Surah Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun? So, to the pen and whatever it has written. Where is this pen? What is written? Because Quran is swearing by something. For example, I tell you that I swear you I am telling the truth. Or I'm trying to convince you for something. That's why I swear by something. So if that's something that I am swearing to you is unknown to you, I mean, generally how people do practically is, if they want to convince you for something, they say, people swear by something that's very valuable for them. I swear by the life of my child that I am telling you the truth. And you know that his child's life is valuable for that person, so he shouldn't be lying. But you know that it is truth, and this life is valuable for that person. Quran is swearing by pen and the things that it has written. What is pen? What is being written? If it's a guidance, you should be able to make sense of it. But if it is something totally unknown to you, then Quran is using some words which doesn't make sense to me, I would need to say.
You like how a pen writes letters that carry meaning, like how Allah, his ability to create and creates things also have meaning.
Yeah, so pen is writing letters, and if you take this existence as letters that carry meaning, then you will look for which pen is writing these letters. And do we also see that pen is, it's not that once upon a time it has written something, but it also keeps writing. So what does a pen look like? It's just a very, tip of a pen is very tiny, right? How about the particles? They're moving all over the place. My face is made up of what? a lot of particles, right? As if all those particles that are moving are tip of a pen of someone who is now painting this face. And over time, it's not a constant phase, it's changing over time, right? It's not that he has written it and left it there. And we took print out 1 hour ago. It stays as it is over the paper. This phase is constantly being updated. So pen of power is constantly acting on existence. Somebody is writing something. The author is not dead. Author is alive and keeps writing. So there's now author saying, creation inscribed by the pen of power on the pages of the universe and on the leaves of time. So now the universe is like a book having several pages. My face is one page. Or let's say now we are in winter. Winter is another chapter of the book, and it's being written. Today it was written as if it was a day from spring. 2 weeks before it was super cold. It's written as such. Tomorrow is going to be written as something else. But what does this book mean? Qur'an, the book Qur'an, is there to explain me what this means. Because otherwise I would take it as it's just a bunch of letters. But it instructs me on the meanings of what is all those things in this existence mean. I keep reading. It regards beings, each of which is a meaningful letter, as bearing the meaning of another. That is, it looks at them on account of their maker. So, what does this mean? It looks at them. It looks at the letters written in the existence as bearing the meaning of another. What do you think that means? Any idea?
Similar to how the Qur'an compared to the philosopher, the Qur'an looks at the letters, understanding that they have meaning.
Yeah, so there is some meaning behind the letter, right? So, because if I look at the signpost of Philadelphia, what does the signpost of Philadelphia tell about itself? I am a blue metal piece. This is what signpost of Philadelphia tells about itself. But what does it say about what it points to? There is a city, Philadelphia, in this direction. So it tells much more about something else than it itself. So if we take this text, for example, this text is just a bunch of letters. We can count number of letters. But if we take this text as it refers to something else, then it will start explaining us the purpose of this existence much more than the letters themselves. So how do I take things? Let's now question ourselves. Something bad happens to you. This is generally the things that we, let's make it more practical in our lives. A friend of yours mistreats you. How do you take it? How do I take it? Do I take it as that person wronged me that much? Because now again, I am looking at the relation between that person and me. Like letter L and O, O and other O, O and K, horizontal relation. Or do I take it as this relation, I shouldn't read it as it is. only. What does this came into being, and it was part of the book that was being written. What does this mean now? What does it refer to? This mistreatment, what does it mean? Or let's say you are in college and you are going to graduate. What is graduation for you? Is it like a gate for you to earn money? Again, am I evaluating it with respect to what comes before, what comes after in the horizontal level? Am I evaluating it with respect to each other? Or why such a thing is put in my life? What does it mean? What does it refer to? A lot of things in life happen, but how do I treat them? Do I treat them as simply, it happens to me, and either I will enjoy it or I will try to jump over it, overcome it? Or do I take it as a meaningful thing that happened in my life? This is how we treat it, right? For example, if you have a traffic accident, what do you say? May Allah protect. But let's say there happened a traffic accident. What do we say? A drunk man came and hit me, or it was just by chance, or it happened. It's something that I need to forget, or I need to pay for it, fix it, and continue with my life. As if it's an unwanted disruption that happened in my life. I need to cover it up as soon as possible and continue my path. Did I search for a meaning in it? No, I treated it as if it is a meaningless letter. I just counted how many letters there are in it. Yeah, it cost me $5,000. Okay, I paid $5,000. I continue my life. Did it mean anything for me? I insulted even traffic accident. It was intentionally. I didn't treat it as it is something that is intentionally put in my life. Right? So this person.
I have to go have a meeting.
Okay, see you.
Awesome.
Go free your phone.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
So he says, it looks at them on account of their maker. So, because if I look at it saying that there is a maker behind this, so what does he trying to tell me? If I look at this text as as something that carries a message to me from an author, then I try to understand what did the author mean in this text. But if I don't think this aspect of it, it is just shapes over a paper, the only thing I can do is counting letters. But if I see that, no, it's not meaningless letters, it's a meaningful text, and it tells something, conveys some message to me from an author, then I will try to understand. So it looks at them on account of their maker. What did the author mean by this? So what did the author of this existence mean by this accident? Or what did the author of existence mean by giving me success in the exam? Is it like I had the success? Going back to our first discussion about Bismillah. Can you attribute success to yourself when you are successful at an exam? Being a religious person, you would say, of course, no. Then let me challenge you a little bit. So, you studied for the exam, your friend didn't study, he failed, and now you are successful. You did something, and you become successful, didn't you? Isn't success yours? You gained it. Or do you still think that it is given to you? What do you think?
That way of thinking is only one-dimensional.
One-dimensional, yeah. But why shall you look any further? example is very close to you. This guy, he didn't work, he failed, you worked, and you're successful. Doesn't this mean that you earned your success, you gained success yourself? It was your effort which led you to success, isn't it? What do you think? Is this a correct logic?
Where's the capacity to
I mean, let's say he's a smart man. So,
That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't earn your capacity. Like the capacity itself.
capacity is given. Right. To what extent capacity is given? Let's question. I mean, this is the right point. But let's see to what extent my capacity is given to me. How do you learn something? You sit in front of a book, right? If I ask the question, you say I studied 10 hours and I learned. Where is the data stored? Do you have any idea? And if you stored the information, the learning, if you did it, if you are the doer of this action, do you know where did you store it? You just sat in front of the book, staring at it, somehow it is stored. You have no clue how it is stored. Because if I was keeping a record of something, and if you asked me, how did you do it? I will say, yeah, here, I put it into this book, this page, this shelf. Take it from there, and if you go and you will check it, and you will find exactly the recording there, and you will say, yes, this guy really recorded it there. But now asking you, where did you record the information? Bless you. You would say, well, I just looked at it, but it was stored. In the day of exam, you remember things. So how did you retrieve this information? Where did you bring it from? You didn't know where you saved it the day before. How are you going to bring it from, retrieve it from where you saved it? So then that means that logic was faulty, right? He didn't study, he failed. You studied, you're successful. Therefore, you are the owner of success. This is a faulty logic. We will talk more about this logic in our following discussions. This would be the crux of our discussion actually for this term, causality. Does such a causality really happen? Or to ask it more plainly, is there causality which is really acting in existence, which is really an agent? Or is it an illusion? So, once we realize this, we will then start looking at things on account of their maker. I am not the maker. I am not the remembering one. I am not the learning one. So then the learning experience, for the learning experience, I can ask the question, what does the learning mean then? Why am I being made to learn? The learning itself then becomes an ayah for me, like a sign for me. Learning can become a sign for me, which I will evaluate to understand why am I being created in a way that I am experiencing this learning? What does it mean? Bees are not learning anything. Humans are learning. Learning is not a sign for bees, but it is a sign for human. Human is meant to get something out of this interaction, this experience of learning. What am I learning, or what am I gaining out of this interaction, this experience? It's a sign. Qur'an talks about ayah a lot. Everything is a sign for me, including the very experience of learning itself. If I read it by referring it to its maker. This is why it is very important to ask the question, who is the maker? If I consider myself to be the maker, what am I going to take out of it? But if I find the true maker of the learning experience, then I can truly maybe evaluate what learning means, what is being meant by the experience of learning. Then the author is making it more concrete now. He says, this Quran says how beautifully they have been made, how exquisitely they point to their maker's beauty, thus showing the universe's true beauty. Now contrast this to perspective of philosophy. What does philosophy say? A few sentences later says, how beautiful they are. So the distinction between the two. Quran says how beautifully they are made versus philosophy says how beautiful they are. You see the difference between the two? Who is being praised in the second one? When I say, oh, what a beautiful flower, whom did I praise now? Flower. But where did the beauty come from? Does the beauty belong to flower? When I say how beautiful flower, as if I imply flower is beautiful. The beauty belongs to flower. Or when I say, well done, you learned very well, I treat it as if you are the maker or the agent of learning. Did you learn? Or you were made to learn? I am experiencing learning. It's not me who is doing this action. I find myself to be learning. Because sometimes I find myself to not to understand anything at all. Like the teacher is speaking, but I am blank. My mind is blank. Sometimes I understand, sometimes I don't. So then let's question ourselves. How do I look at existence? Do I look at existence as the philosopher in this example, or do I look at existence the way Quran looks at existence? So, inshallah, purpose in these discussions would be to try to read the existence as Quran is instructing me to read the existence. To be able to say how beautifully made this flower is, instead of saying, oh, how beautiful this flower is. But what's the practical use of that? Let's say, okay, I said how beautifully made this flower is. Do you see any utility of this? What would you like to say that? Dhikr? It's a dhikr, it's a reminder, but what is it good for? There needs to be some good excuse so that we would like to come to this discussion next week. Otherwise, it's just some sort of intellectual activity or, okay, yeah, we are feeling good for 1 hour. What's the point? There needs to be some sort of an incentive so that I will try to say, condition myself to say, oh, how beautifully it is made, but not say how beautiful it is. Why should I do that? Any idea? Can you see any benefit of one perspective over the other? Are they just equal perspectives? Okay, yeah, it's just a matter of interpretation. Some people say it's good, some people say it's made good. You think like this, I think like that. Your way is to yours, my way is to me. Any benefits you can think of?
I mean, I think that if you say it's made, then it's telling you about the maker in that sense.
Yes.
And then that puts a meaning to it. It's not just saying the shape of it, but then saying, okay, it's conveying.
Let's take it one step further. Yes, it tells something about the maker. So what? What am I gaining out of that? Any idea? what happens if we read into the text? Meaning that if we read into existence, does it make life any better? Do you see life being any better if you read meaning behind things? Okay, let's think about human then. Let's question ourselves, because generally we forget ourselves partially. So, human has a lot of needs, right? We want everything. Are you going to say something?
I'm going to say is like what you were saying first week, talking about this and that, and you think of your creators understanding nothing can benefit you or harm you without the will of your creator. So just being able to put into perspective like how transient the good and the bad things in life are for us.
Yeah. Because we are in need of everything, right? But we would like eternity. We don't want to die. We have so many desires. But the joys are disappearing momentarily. You taste something good, and it immediately disappears. You love someone, then the one that you love gets old. And that person was beautiful, but then the skin is getting this smooth skin becomes older, not beautiful anymore. Memory starts deteriorating over time. Things will go bad in front of your eyes, or your beloved ones are dying. You are going to die one day. Life is like a torture. And time to time you are, let's say, earning money, building up, just trying to save, and then a drunk man comes and hits your car. Pointlessly. You lose your money. You lose your health. Everything is so meaningless, so it really puts men into a prison, saying that why all these are happening. Even it becomes a motto for some people. Yeah, bad things happens to good people. As if just to increase the pain that you're experiencing in life. But if I start seeing it, if I say it is beautiful, actually the phrase, if I think into it, the phrase it is beautiful is a terrifying thing. Because that means it is beautiful right now, it made itself beautiful, but it cannot preserve its beauty. It is dying. Such a terror. I might be handsome right now if I made it, but I cannot preserve it. So it puts me into terror. How am I going to preserve it? How am I going to save or preserve my beloved ones? I cannot preserve myself. I cannot protect them. Everything is just going away. Because if everything acts on itself and they cannot protect themselves, everything is decaying, the world really becomes like a chaotic place in which might has right, only the fittest survives. So you have to be strong in order to survive in this existence. But you also know that at some point of time, after age 30, 40, you will start declining. Inevitable end awaits you. So life becomes a torture. But if I read it as how beautifully it is made, then that means beauty is coming from somewhere else. Once the beautiful dies, or the thing that I see in beauty in it dies, source of beauty doesn't die. So an example that I was giving recently. So since wives are here, so for example, when you give a rose to your wife, a flower, you bought a flower to your wife. What does that mean? If she takes the flower as, oh, how beautiful flower it is, flower will die. The beauty of flower will die with the flower itself. Beauty will also die. And then she will be detached from that beauty. Separation is the thing that really kills human. We dislike. You dislike separation. But if she says, actually, this flower is a symbol of love. Even if the flower dies, what it symbolizes doesn't die. So he says, okay, the love is alive. Its symbol, flower was a symbol of love. Even if it dies, the source of love is still alive. So now this was an analogy. Let's apply it to existence. If I say things are made beautiful, I am saying that it is just showing me beauty like a mirror. If you see the beauty of someone through a mirror, and if the mirror gets broken, does the beautiful one dies? Does the beauty disappear? No, beauty is still alive, still present, but just the mirror is broken. If you say it is beautifully made, then that means it is just a reflection, it is just a mirror. The whole existence becomes a mirror. So the source doesn't die, doesn't disappear. The beautiful one is always there. So today, a mirror was, I don't know, your most beloved dog, let's say. Dog dies, you were experiencing some sort of love through your dog, let's say. But if you consider your dog as a mirror of love, so the loving one's love is being manifest or reflected to you through this dog. If your dog dies today, you can say, okay, the beloved one is still alive. In another friend, in another animal, let's say, in this example, you can experience love. You would say that, okay, now this is another reflection of the same love. It might be that your parent, you love them, but you realize that what I love in my parent, in my wife, does the beauty that I love in my wife, does it belong to my wife? Or my wife is a mirror, a reflector of somebody else's beauty? So if I consider it as such, then I would say how beautifully you are made, meaning that you are reflecting me somebody else's beauty. And as long as I would like to preserve the mirror, but breaking of the mirror doesn't mean that the beloved, using the Quranic word al-wadud, never dies. So having the mentality of how beautifully it is made connects me with eternity, with the eternal one. Because human is never satisfied with temporary things. Just check yourself. Are you getting satisfied with limited beings? Or you are always looking for more? Human is designed or created in a way that we always ask for more. And putting it into Qur'an's words, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Anything other than God would never satisfy you. But what is God? God is the eternal one, the never-ending one, the unlimited one. So I will appreciate a beauty which never fades away. Otherwise, whatever beauty you can think of that is on earth, meaning that is disconnected in this horizontal relationship, in the horizontal level, whatever most beauty you can think of would never satisfy you. You will always ask for more. So the perspective of how beautiful it is will always fail me. But if I can get the perspective of how beautifully it is made, then it makes me get connected with the absolute, the eternal, which really eases all my feelings, hardships, and gives satisfaction to me. So it has a very practical utility in my life. So being able to say how beautifully it is made saves my soul, even when I am on earth. So while concluding, let's tie this back to last week's conclusion. Last week's conclusion was Iman, with the lens of the perspective of Iman, you can find the seed of paradise in every action. And with the lens of unbelief, you will see that there is the seed of hell in every action. In every action, good or bad. So, translating it to today's discussion, when I say, let's say I saw a beautiful little cute baby. If I say how beautiful this baby is, there's a seed of hell in it. How? This baby is, if the baby is beautiful, if the source of beauty belongs to baby, this baby will grow, will become old, and will die one day. And this hurts me. This beauty will fade away. This beauty will die. And this hurts me. Because I don't want beauty to die. And actually, once I really experienced this, I was at a place, I was traveling. I saw a baby, parents, and grandparents. Baby was in a stroller, parents like 20s, 30s, grandparents at 70s were again in a wheelchair. I was terrified seeing this scene. I said that, yes, this baby is not cute, but eventually this cute thing would become this ugly old man. It really hurt my heart. Beauty is going to die, and in your eyes, in front of your eyes, you can see that actually, just fast forward, this is what it will become. Why is it dying? Because if you see a butterfly being crushed in front of your eyes, how would you feel? Beautiful butterfly being crushed and killed, you will feel bad, right? So the perspective of how beautiful it is has this pain in it. And when Qur'an says, Qur'an threatens us, the unbeliever, with hell, I say, I bear witness that unbelief takes you to hell. I experience it. How do you know? I experience it. If I look at it from the perspective of unbelief, meaning that there's no maker, it happens by itself, I experience hell. I find myself in hell. Reverse, if I say that it is made beautiful, then I say, baby becomes an adult, gets old, the mirror dies, but it doesn't make the source to die. Source is alive. And it makes me get satisfied. Because my heart wants something which never dies, which never fades away. This is how I am. I didn't choose to be as such. I am made as such. You cannot change your heart in this respect. So, conclusion, in everything, Iman puts the seed of paradise, and kufr, unbelief perspective, puts hell in everything. So may Allah make us enter paradise when we are here on earth. And inshallah, after death, we will have an idea of where we are going to. Any comments before we close? Inshallah, next time I should choose better questions to make this speak. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.